talking about the truth and how it matters, why is it that Epstein files, somehow both parties come together when it gets to why should it not be public, right? They don't even give you real reasons, though. That's the crazy part. Like, Democrats don't fight over, oh, you know, we should push this because there must be something about Trump or some. And you have Republicans who are like, you know what? It's fine. Are we still talking about this guy, Tucker? Like, what is up with that?
I mean, I think the obvious answer is probably the right answer. I've talked to the president about it a lot, and his view is that this is all a trap. He said this many times in public.
Wait, all a trap? What do you mean by that? It's all a trap.
He believes, or he says,
right.
And he said to me, and I think he said in public, that this reminds him of Russiagate. This is an attempt by Democrats to ensnare him in a fake scandal. He had nothing to do with Epstein. He's not, never did anything creepy, which, by the way, I just want to say, I believe that completely. I think I know him pretty well, and quite well, and I just don't imagine that at all. That's whatever the president sins. I don't think.
Why not? But
I don't know the answer. Right. I think it's incredibly counterproductive. I think it would have been very easy for the administration to be transparent about Epstein. I think it would have helped the country. I think it would have helped the administration a lot,
absolutely,
given it credibility.
Listen, I know you know him well, so I want to theorize here real quick, because no one, people do interviews and they don't really go into this stuff. Like, I don't know why are they so scared? So obviously, I'm not honestly even interested who was in the Epstein list, because I'm going to see all the good names there. Because
right.
if I'm a vicious spy that wants some kind of, dirty stuff on a guy that's doing good, that's pretty much how I would do it. Like, I would target good people that are in powerful positions, making
right.
decisions. So could it be that, human emotion, if we're talking about the most damaging human emotion, it's mostly shame. Like, people do stuff because they are ashamed, and they will trample over love. Love is most powerful, but they will trample over love. But when it gets to shame, and the CIA learned this long time ago, people typically will do whatever it takes so that their dirty laundry is not out there. Could it be that Trump was there and he just doesn't want to jeopardize his presidency even putting it out there?
Well, I mean, it's a matter of documentary proof that Trump knew Epstein. Trump's talked about this a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I knew Epstein. He did creepy stuff at my club. I kicked him out. It's absolutely true. I can verify this firsthand, that Epstein was always around, and everyone knows Epstein, and having dinner at his house. And I don't think having dinner at his house or even necessarily going to his island is proof of a crime. I know a million people who had dinner with him, mostly liberal. He was liberal, but I don't, he had this kind of salon going on in his house right off Fifth Avenue in the 70s, biggest house in New York. And he was just inviting everyone to dinner. And Ehud Barak is living there. And he's got Stephen Hawking, and he's got members of the British Royal family. And so on that level, knowing Epstein is not a crime.
Exactly, it's not a crime.
Much less something to be ashamed of. He was at the center of New York society and Palm Beach society for decades. So if you want, it's on the internet. You want a list of people who hung out with Epstein? It's half the people on television hung out with Epstein.
But here's the problem, though. Here's where things don't line up for me. So if this guy is a Mossad operative and conducting an operation actively in the United States, trying to target people, trying to get something on them, why are our agencies okay with that? That's what I just don't get. Well,
you know perfectly well. Look.
Yeah, no, I know. But
so there are a lot of threats. Look, I'm speculating at this point. He clearly had contact with Israeli intelligence. He clearly had contact with U.S. intelligence, and maybe most critically, British intelligence, which never gets the credit it deserves for being probably a little scarier than Mossad and CIA, and ruthless and just involved in everything bad. There's nothing bad that happens that doesn't have British intelligence involved in it, I have noticed a lot. So there's that. Then there's also the question of was his sex life, a hobby, or was it a job, or was it both? Was this a honey trap
I think it was both, yeah.
Probably both.
Right.
There's no Epstein list. There are no Epstein files. I know this. All of the real story begins in 2006-07 when he's arrested in Palm Beach. And I think this is public and it's worth looking at, is the search warrant. Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach basically was written to help Jeffrey Epstein. So this came to the attention of the authorities because a girl complained about him. They had to investigate it. They did. There was a lot there. And then the search warrant basically protected him, and it prevented the authorities from collecting meaningful information. It was like, you're allowed to look in drawer 3, but not drawer 4. How did that happen? Like, that's the center of the story. So the truth is the US government doesn't have that much. What they do have is the ability to talk to people who are involved, like Les Wexner, which they've never done, who is the longtime owner of The Limited, Victoria's Secret, lots of other companies, who was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, had some kind of clearly unusual relationship with him and wound up buying his property in Fifth Avenue, for example. I think also his house and his ranch in New Mexico, and a lot of things. Massive transfer of money from this guy, Les Wexner, in Ohio to Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Leon Black, same thing. He says for accounting services. That's clearly not true. Those are people who could be brought in to explain what they know, and they haven't been. So to me, I think the Epstein list, the client list, I have been reliably told that there is no such thing, really. But we know who the big players are because it's already been public, and they're not being questioned.
Yeah.
And what is that?
Exactly.
What, you tell me what that is. I don't know. And I think it's really distressing. So that's not about Mossad or MI6 or CIA. That's about stuff that was in Vanity Fair magazine and no one's followed up on it. So I think, as usual, the crime is right in front of our faces. And I can't answer that question. I find it enormously frustrating. And I'll just say once again that the Trump administration, I think, would help itself quite a bit. I don't think they have anything to fear. If what people are saying they're afraid of is that Trump did something gross with women,
I really don't.
I just want to be clear. I do not believe that.
Yeah,
I'm not covering for Trump. I just don't think that's true. I've never seen any indication of it, and I've talked to people, to be totally honest with you, close to Epstein, very close to Epstein, who've told me off camera, in private, no, it's not. Trump never did that shit. So I don't think it's about that. But why is no one talking to Les Wexner? And most critical from my perspective is Epstein's death, which was very clearly a murder. He was murdered. I'd bet my house on it. And there's a lot of evidence that he was murdered, and the Justice Department under Bill Barr lied about it. And what is that? Again, that's not even, it's almost like the Bibi thing. Yeah. It's not really about Bibi. It's, I don't like Bibi. I think he's deranged.
It's not about Bibi, it's about us.
It's about us. It's about us. It's not about Epstein. It's not about Mossad.
Right.
I just want to say again that I think I understand like some of the stories that the anti-Semites tell, okay? But I think ultimately the anti-Semites are really bad because they, on many levels, morally they're bad, of course, but they also, as a practical matter, anti-Semites are bad because they draw you away from the actual truth, which is there's like serious corruption right next to us, nothing to do with Jews.
Exactly.
Right. And I mean it too. I'm not just saying that. So he was murdered in the most secure part of the federal detention facility in Manhattan, our biggest city. And Bill Barr, the then Attorney General under Donald Trump, covered it up. What? And it just so happens that Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, is the one who hired Jeffrey Epstein without a college degree to teach at one of the most prestigious private schools in Manhattan. Maybe there's no connection there. I don't know, but it's an amazing coincidence. And then I just learned, and I believe it's true, I learned from a very well-informed person, that it was Donald Barr who got Epstein his job at Bear Stearns. Yes, at Bear Stearns. And by the way, that's not proof of anything, but it's
I call that circumstantial case, Tucker.
It's
not a proof. It is a circumstantial case.
So I'm totally convinced, I've said this in public many times, he's threatened to sue me, and I would welcome that, that I think that Attorney General Barr covered up his death. I mean, I know that he did. He announced that it was a suicide before they'd done an investigation. So you're the chief law enforcement officer. Here are the rules. We don't say we know something until we know it. And you had no way to know that. So you announced it anyway. And then you tell everyone around you this was a suicide and we're going to prove it's a suicide. That's not law enforcement. That's by definition a cover-up. And that happened, and he admitted he did that. So he covered up Epstein's murder, and for whatever reason, and his dad got Epstein started in life. I just don't even know what to make of those. Those are facts, and I don't know what to make of them.
I want to ask you about Dan Bongino and Cash Patel when they were giving interviews like to scolded kids that they, you know, it's just, what was that about? Okay, we know the cover-up happened. Fine.
Yes.
Trump has his people, maybe not all of them. I know it's hard. I know the capacity it requires to clean up 65-year-old mess, maybe even more. But these two showed up and told us, oh no, it was a suicide. Yeah, guys, it was a suicide. I trusted Cash Patel. I still trust Dan Bongino.
I like Dan a lot. Dan's a friend of mine and a really good guy. I don't know what to make of that. I know Cash, of course. Mm-hmm. But I know Dan well enough to know I would be shocked if he was lying. I think he must have believed that. I don't believe that. I told him, I talked to him later. I don't believe that at all. And they've released no evidence that makes me believe that at all. And they released this video, which is absolutely ridiculous. And they've never told us who are the other. So I think there were 12 inmates in the secure part of the facility. And I spent like months on this story with Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark, the only survivor in that family, who believes he was murdered and has a lot of evidence that he was. And I really walked through it all. I went and visited him. We spent days on this. And no one's ever explained any of this stuff. And I could go through all the evidence, but you know, I've already done it. But the point is, I don't understand why they think that. In Dan's case, just knowing him well, I can say I believe that he believed it. I don't believe it. In general, I think we would just be all better off. We'd have less suspicion, less conspiracy theories and misinformation if we were just honest about it.
Just show us.
I know in my life that is true. When you stop, I mean, when I realized the Iraq War was a disaster, I guess I could have, since it all happened before YouTube, I could have been like, oh, I was never for this. I always knew this was bullshit. But I was like, no, I'm not going to allow myself to do that. I'm going to admit that I advocated for this disaster, that it was all a lie. I participated in the lie unknowingly, but I did participate in it.
Right.
And once I admitted that about myself, I was totally free. When you're not hiding something, you're liberated.
Well, you're also kind of unshakable. There's nothing they can do.
Well, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not a virtuous person at all. I've done a lot of things I'm ashamed of in my life, but I have concluded, because I have done bad things, that trying not to do bad things, doing your best, you probably will do them anyway, but then admitting it when you do it, that's like salvation on this earth.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.